guys? It's Betty. You know in Terminator 2 when the robot sacrifices itself in order to save the future of humanity? It's kind of like that. Madman's gone done it and deleted the Department of Education. The machine destroyed itself in order to save humanity. Here's the Department of Education official X account saying America's governors know that the best education system is then one that is closest to the student. Posting news clips that say we should delete ourselves. And President Trump obliged today, officially signing an executive order to begin the process of closing the Department of Education. Boom. Shaka laka. The Department of Education has spent $1 trillion since its inception, yet 30 schools in Illinois do not have a single student that can read. Department of Education is an abysmal disaster. The executive order eliminates the Department of Education. Closing the Department of Education would provide children with their families an opportunity to escape the system that has failed them, says Donald Trump. Here's the moment, President Trump, with the children at their desks. I love the White House optics here.
Should I do this? It was very lucky. I saw another document that turned out to be very good for the country, and I said, let's use that same pen. I don't know, is anybody superstitious? Ron, are you superstitious? Let's use that same pen.
Flow state. Absolute alpha energy mode, and no auto pen here. An actual real president doing real things. Really good for the country. Getting rid of entire federal agencies. What a time on we live in. Oh, and then all the kids hold it up. Again, the optics are immaculate.
Can you come up just to say? Big factory here. Good luck, sir.
There we go. That's the Education Secretary, Linda McMahon, who's kicking the Department of Education right in the balls. Did you know that there are over 23 million civilian employees of the government, state, and local and federal? 11 million work in education, almost half. 6.7 million of those are not teachers. Education is a top-heavy and bloated. Abolish the Department of Education. Here's a good meme for you. There's the teacher, and here are all the individuals who stand around watching the teacher teach. Equity trainer, curriculum specialist, policy advisor, executive director of instruction, leadership development, lazy, blah, 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 blah. Right? You get the point. Department of Education is just a slush fund, effectively, for useless libs who just want to stand around and watch this country fail and collect taxpayer dollars while doing it. Trump signed an executive order to abolish the Department of Education. Okay, how does this work? White House fact sheet on the move will turn over education to families instead of bureaucracies. Trump and proponents of eliminating the Department have long said that the agency has failed American students. This is a national crisis. For scores, our children are failing and falling behind. Over the past 4 years, Democrats have allowed millions of illegal minors into the country, straining school and resources, diverting the focus from Americans. Well, that's a matter of fact. The directive comes as Senate voted to confirm Linda McMahon, CEO of the World Wrestling Entertainment, to lead the agency. McMahon, it just makes me so happy, issued a memo later that day outlining her support for the Trump administration's plan to oversee a new era of accountability, and then she immediately fired half the staff. It's great. So this is a order that effectively winds down the billions and billions of dollars that pour into the Department of Education and its rotting building, and says that that money needs to go to the states instead of Washington, D.C. Trump has supported bringing education back to the states and rethinking schools. Despite Trump's order, the president needs Congress to sign off on eradication of the agency under Article 2 of the U.S. Constitution. Such measure would require 60 votes in the Senate. There are only 53 Republicans. That'd be quite a feat. Thomas Massey is in favor, though. Congress should support President Trump's bold agenda by passing this bill to abolish the Department of Education, which only require 51 votes in the Senate to back him up. Well, yeah, that's right. I mean, I guess you could use the budget reconciliation process and do that. Oh, boy. Some of the angriest libs on the internet are very, very upset right now. But you know what? Die mad, because you suck at this. Here we go. Student enrollment is up 8%. Teaching staff is up 60%. Total staff is up 84%. And non-teaching staff is up 138%. The growth in education staffing has far outpaced student enrollment. So this is a very important question. The Constitution provides no mandate for federal government to be involved in education for any reason. Of course, that's not part of the founding documents. Clearly, you should return the power of education to the state and to the districts and municipalities and domiciles closest to the student. So good riddance, right? Yeah. Everyone taking their families to the White House to celebrate. And somebody who's also celebrating is Stephen Miller and Carolyn Levitt. Carolyn Levitt outside of the White House.
Caroline, what do you say to critics of the president's education plan?
Where was their criticism of our nation's failing test scores for the last several decades? The Department of Education was founded in the 1970s, and since then we have spent more than $3 trillion at this federal bureaucracy. What has been the return on that investment for the American taxpayer? Levels that are less than ideal, less than proficient. Our children's test scores are incredibly concerning when it comes to reading rates, literacy rates, math, and science test scores. The numbers prove that, and this president is finally taking much needed action to return education to where it belongs, and that's to educators closest to students in their classrooms in their respective states. We're going to have a great event here later at 4 o'clock. There will be students here, teachers here, parents here, educators, and of course governors from around the country who are very excited about taking on this responsibility to educate our nation's students.
Who's going to run federal student loans?
So the Department of Education will be much smaller than it is today. As you know, the President's executive order directed Linda McMahon to greatly minimize the agency. So when it comes to student loans and Pell Grants, those will still be run out of the Department of Education, but we don't need to be spending more than $3 trillion over the course of a few decades on a department that's clearly failing in its initial intention to educate our students.
So is the federal government going to be
it's going to
spending
be
less?
much smaller than it is. Is it not going to be shut down completely? And then I have a second question.
As I said, Pell Grants and student loans will still be run out of the department in Washington, D.C., but the great responsibility of educating our nation's students will return to the states.
And the Department of Education plays a critical role in enforcing civil rights laws that prohibit discrimination. Who's going to do that now?
Any critical functions of the department, such as that, will remain. But again, we're greatly reducing the scale and the size of this department.
What about federal Title I funding and spending?
I just like how she always comes both barrels loaded, cocked and loaded, and ready to go. Stephen Miller making also a very finite point here about the purpose of the Department of Education.
The Department of Education here in Washington, D.C. is overwhelmingly staffed by radical left Marxist bureaucrats who are in every way hostile to Western civilization, hostile to American interests, and hostile to our founding documents and culture. And so they are using their position and influence inside the Department of Education to try to force agendas like radical gender ideology, like critical race theory, like diversity, equity, and inclusion, and all kinds of anti-America curricula and policies on the American people, on our students, on our children. So it's taking away from parents the ability to control and direct the education of their own kids, of their own families. So what we're going to do under President Trump's leadership and direction is to return that authority to the greatest extent possible to the local level where parents can control outcomes, while at the same time making sure that no federal funds are used to support racism, to support gender ideology, or to support other ideas and principles that are offensive to the American taxpayer.